Mhm.
Right, at 1:30. And to start the meeting. Thanks everyone for coming. Is there anybody on the board here? Jerry, do we have a forum?
Yes,
All right,
we're good.
we're gonna start. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from February 17, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Back. You. Next item, review and board action on 2023 per capita economic development funding applications tabled from the February 17, 2023 meeting. We have someone here to present.
Yeah, I'll just kind of introduce that if you don't mind. At the last meeting, there were actually 4 different funding allocations that were tabled by the board, by the IDB. One was the city of Amarillo. They were unable to attend last time, and they are unable to attend this time. I was in discussion with Stephanie Crom over at the city. Just schedules are not working out for them. They certainly do wish to, approach the board and report on their allocation for 2023 here. They apologize, they couldn't attend today. And certainly hope that it's okay that we just discuss that one next time.
City of Alma.
Yeah, city of Alma, correct. There are a couple of more. One was the town of Clayton. They at the last minute had decided to allocate their funding to the Fox Cities Economic Development Partnership. And we do have Eric Groton here today. And Eric, if you'd like to, and the funding there is $3,938. And Eric is just going to give a short little talk on their program.
Thank you. Yeah, apologize up front. I wasn't aware how many you're gonna be here, so I think they've got enough for see if they go around. But yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Sure.
We can share the drive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Eric.
You want to Amber too?
Yeah, for the
I
right.
gotta.
Yeah, she should. Yeah,
Amber.
she wants
Should
to.
sit
Like,
there.
one of them, just so I can.
Yeah, we don't want to leave her out of it.
Yep.
I kind of saw her over there.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for having me.
There you go.
Like Jerry said, I'm the Economic Development Director at the Fox Cities Regional Partnership. And the Regional Partnership is the economic development arm of the Fox Cities Chamber. So what you have in front of you is our annual report from the chamber. So there's going to be some things in here that aren't necessarily economic development related. So I'm going to kind of skim over some of that stuff and just do a high level. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer that, but just trying to give you an example of some of the things we're doing. And if you guys flip to the 3rd page, where it says connect on the top, that's kind of the first part that kind of highlights some of the stuff we're doing from an economic development standpoint. And the very first bullet point, Connect Free. This is a new program we launched in August of last year. And basically we, as a chamber, looked at what we could do for the business community that would have the biggest impact. And we all know how difficult it is for entrepreneurs and small businesses. So we decided we're gonna target them specifically and offer them a free chamber membership. So that gives them direct access to all of our resources for free. Since that, we started again the last week of August last year. We've added 330 new members, all for free. And that's about a third of our total. We had about 1,000 members before that. So we've really been able to take advantage and have the small businesses take advantage of this opportunity. And they're not just joining and kind of letting things go, they're showing up to stuff. They're coming to events and coming to different programs that we're offering. So it's been a really good program for us so far. It is actually the first one in the country, we're the first place in the country doing this. Our CEO, Becky Barkozik, has actually gone at the state level, presented to the state chambers out of Eau Claire on this program. And she was asked to go to Washington DC and provide at the national level. So really groundbreaking stuff that we're doing right here in the Fox Cities. We've got some advocacy. We've got John Kirk in the picture there. He's our public policy advisor. Doesn't technically do that kind of development, but that's just on that page. So a couple of things I'm gonna skim over if we go to the next page. We do some of the standard chamber stuff, right? Networking. We have a young professionals group. If you didn't know, Oktoberfest and License to Cruise are both chamber events. And then this bottom one here, membership maximizer. With adding 300 some new members, we realized there's gonna be a lot of people that join and just don't understand all of the resources available to them. So we've started doing these membership maximizers once a quarter. It's not just for new members. We've had existing members take advantage too, but when they come in person, they get to meet all of the chamber staff. We get to explain kind of what our roles are and what we do. And then they've got the opportunity to come and ask questions. So they get to learn firsthand everything that is available to them as far as resources go. That's been hugely successful as well. We've had a lot of great feedback on that. Just getting people more involved. We always tell people join the chamber. It's kind of like a gym membership. You only get in what you put out. You pay the money and don't ever come to anything or participate, you're not gonna get anything out of it. So this has been a great way to get those people more involved and you realize what they get for that membership, even if it's free.
What's the price of the membership?
Regular price starts at 400 a year. There's a couple other options you go up higher, but the basic membership is $400 a year.
And so what higher than one?
And this next page says grow. This one really hits on a lot of the programs we do from an economic development standpoint. Some numbers up top, but I'm going to kind of focus on the bottom section here. Because talent retention and attraction is the biggest area that we focus on. We all know how big of a struggle it is out there for employers. So we do everything we can to help try to build the pipeline and help them out with that. For starters, the Future Fox Cities Career Expo, which is actually happening tomorrow and Wednesday. We hold it at the Fox Cities Expo Center in Appleton. And last year we had 8,000 students, or sorry, 3,000 students. Both high schoolers and eighth graders, meeting area businesses, getting introduced to career options that are available to them right there in the Fox Cities. Fox Cities Days is our traveling college recruitment. We go to UW Eau Claire, Michigan Tech, I'm sorry, not Eau Claire, Platteville, Michigan Tech, UW Oshkosh, and Concordia. Again, we're trying to build that pipeline and letting these students know that the Fox Cities is a region that's got so many great employers there available to them. And we're really targeting the needs that our employers have currently. So that's why we go to Platteville and Michigan Tech, because we have a big need for engineers. And we target Concordia because of the medical nurses and other medical staff that we need. And then UW Oshkosh being right here is a natural fit as well. Smart Girls Rock, that's a really cool event. Actually, we had over 80 high school girls. We try to do some of the local businesses that are focusing on the STEM careers, so science, technology, engineering, math. These girls get a chance to do firsthand learning. They did them last year. They got to operate a crane that pulled tabs. They're up in the cab of this crane operating that. They're welding. Miller Electric brings a welder machine. They're welding right there on the spot. Forensic science. They're doing fingerprinting and other forensics through the police department. So really cool things to again experience things that are right here in the Fox Cities. Employee friendly workplace, that is a certification program we have that is helping to acknowledge all the great employers we have in the region. So if employers that are interested can try to get certified. It's not pay for play. We have a pretty extensive process to get people certified. And then we go and make a big deal announcing that this is, fantastic place to work, great opportunity where they really put their employees first. And we're trying to make sure that they get recognized. Everyone knows Fox City is a great place to live. We want to know there's great employment opportunities here as well.
Have you ever denied a certification for employee-friendly workplace?
Oh, yeah. Yep, and we don't straight out deny people,
Mhm.
but what's great about this program is it gives them a roadmap. So if they don't qualify, they know what they need to do to make improvements and get there. So it's a point-driven thing where if you offer this at a certain level, you get this many points, and it's all laid out for them, so if they're 40 points below where they need to be, they can look at this and say, well, I can add 40 points by doing this, this, and this. And then they have the opportunity to go and do that. So we have had people that have denied the first time around. And, within a year or so have reapplied and made it.
Great.
So,
uh, some of the parameters around there, would they be, offering health insurance, livable wages, retirement benefits, that kind of stuff?
yeah, it's not so much based on wages at all, but instead it's your benefits package, the perks you're offering.
Mhm.
If you just have standard benefits, like, hey, we have a 3% 401k match, and we're offering 2 weeks vacation and kind of the standard stuff,
Mhm.
you're not gonna get in even at the lowest level, which we have bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. You need to do more, so you need to be someone that's offering, work from home flexibility options where it's available. We understand manufacturing and some things you can't do that, but when you can, you offer that kind of thing. Maybe you're offering an extra PTO than just the standard 2 weeks. You get more points for the more weeks you offer up front. HSA programs, FSA, some places are giving childcare stipends to help with that. Obviously, no childcare affordability is really tough, so the more you do, the more cool things you're offering, wellness programs, things like that. So we look at the whole picture. And this was developed, I inherited this, so I've been at the chamber almost 2 years, and this was already in place. But we only had 2 employers certified when I joined year and 8 months ago. We're up, this says 13, but we're actually up to 16 employers now.
Mhm.
So we've added a lot. It's been growing in popularity, and I've got 2 more applications sitting in my desk I need to get through, so. It's been really popular as people are looking to, give people more reasons to look at them as an option. BREs, it stands for Business Retention and Expansion. This program, we make an effort to get out there and meet with as many businesses as we can in our region. And it's a one-on-one meeting with us and maybe, a municipal partner like George or someone from the city or village that we're meeting in. And we're trying to learn as much as we can about this business and also build a relationship and open communication up. So we're trying to figure out other ways we can help them with resources that they didn't know were there. We want to know how their facility is working is a really big question. We don't want, if they're out there in their space, the last thing we want is the business to leave and we don't know what they're leaving. So by building that line of communication and kind of setting in their head, hey, when you're looking to leave, if you need to expand, that first call I would make, if you're in Fox Crossing, you like being there, I'd call George first. And that's really a thing we highlight, because we want, George might have, he knows the options in Fox Crossing, we may keep them right there. So that's our goal when we meet with these people, is to try to keep them here. We don't want any surprises. And then at the same time, what other resources can we offer you in the meantime to help you grow? I'm not gonna hit on a ton of these too much, but we do, in economic development outreach, we went to Dallas last year to meet with site selectors. So we're trying to let them know all the, when they're looking to maybe expand the business from the Dallas area up to anywhere in the country, we want them to think of the 5 cities. So that was a meeting where we just explained everything we have going on here in the 5 cities. Bigger economic development organizations do these kind of visits all over the country, and they do them all year round. We don't quite have the funding for that, but ideally we would do a lot more of these visits. While we were down there, though, we also met with American Airlines as we are trying to recruit a direct flight from Dallas to ATW. So that's something that through the data we know is needed and wanted up here. So we're doing those kind of projects and outreach where it's needed. Business attraction, it's a really small bullet on here, and that's for a reason. We are, if someone comes to us and wants to move a business here, we're gonna do everything we can to help them. And part of that is sending out, if they send us an RFI, a request for information, looking for sites or existing buildings, we help distribute that to our municipal partners so they can submit any properties they might have that they know of. But if we're gonna actually target a business, to recruit here. We're very selective on that. We want to make sure that it's something that complements our current businesses. It isn't going to compete with them for workforce, because that's the last thing we need is another, you know, manufacturer with 300 jobs paying $17 an hour that's just going to compete with the Pierces and the other businesses we have. So we're pretty selective if it's someone that we're going to go target. We're working with the city of Appleton, for example, to recruit a grocery store downtown. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're trying. They've had the need for it. They've had the want, so we're going to see if we can make that work. But that's one where we're specifically targeting a specific business. So there's some other things that I'm gonna just kind of let you guys flip through later. There's some award programs with other things in here that we do at the chamber level, but being that this is an economic development pledge, we're trying to keep it at that. So if you guys have any questions for me, I can help answer. Or is that kind of what you're looking for? Is that overview what we're using that funds for?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for coming down and giving us this presentation. And I think these are the things that, when we've had our conversations, how do we unify Winnebago County?
Right.
And for you coming to a meeting like this is one of those things that really does that to help us, get over that GG dividing line and west. And I really think if we really want to take economic development seriously in this county, we need to understand the regional challenges that we have and make sure that we're working together with all our partners. So thank you for coming here. And even thank you for the work with the direct flight to Dallas, and we have to realize, even though we have an airport here, what's important is that airport, because that helps it and makes it easier for us to recruit and maintain young professionals. And that we need to work together more. And so thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
I have kind of a question.
Yeah.
When you're attracting businesses, you said you try to attract things that are not competing with existing businesses for workforce. How do you find businesses that aren't competing?
Well, they all do to an extent, like even the grocery store example, right? They're gonna need people, and they're gonna be maybe taking someone that could have worked at a festival or somewhere else, but if the need is there and the demand is there, that's when we're looking at it, but also complementary businesses. So if we find out that there's a manufacturer that is going to, they're looking for components for what they're making. And right now they're getting it from overseas or getting it from California or somewhere across the country. And we hear that from a couple different manufacturers, and we can help try to bring that component manufacturer here and make things easier from the supply chain side. Those are the kind of things we would rather focus on, even though, yes, they're gonna need employees. It's aiding our current employers in that way from a supply chain side. But to be perfectly honest, with the times like they are, we're not doing a ton of that. Unless people are coming to us right now, just because the workforce, it's too big of a challenge right now for everyone. So it's not a big focus at the current moment, unless people come to us looking to move here. And we'll try to help them out for sure.
Anybody else? Need a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Eric. Okay, we also have Sarah Hanneman from Future Nina. That is the allocation that the town of Nina has decided to allocate their $3,331 in funding. And we have Sarah from Future Nina.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for your time, everyone. I'm Sarah Hanneman. I'm the Assistant Director at Future Nina. For those of you who are not familiar with what Future Nina is, this is actually our 40th anniversary year, so we've been around 40 years. And our mission is to promote economic and cultural vitality for the greater Nina area. In the simplest terms, we're kind of a cross between a chamber and a visitors bureau that focuses on the greater Nina area. And more considering ourselves the front door to the community. So generally, if people are thinking about moving to Nina, or if they're looking at bringing a business to Nina, we're the front door, that they're stopping at us. They're wanting to know, about quality of life issues. They're wanting to know about the school system in Neenah. They're wanting to know about what types of business grants and such are available. So lots of times we're the first stop that they make when they're considering that move. So if they're a KC or a Theta or a Bergstrom employee and they're being relocated or considering a job with Neenah, that they're stopping with us to find out, what types of library programs, parks and rec programs, what type of recreational opportunities are there? What is the housing opportunities like? So they're coming to us for that type of information as they consider those moves. One of the other things that Future Neenah does is we're the administrative arm of the Business Improvement District. So similar to here in Oshkosh, Neenah also does have a business improvement district. So Future Neenah serves as the administrative arm for that. So we're the eyes, ears, and feet on the street for the Central City Business Improvement District for downtown Neenah as well. So in that role, we're doing retention and recruitment of businesses. We're doing maintenance of the Central City. We're doing the PR and marketing for that area as well. So keeping that area vibrant and vital and alive is so important because Central Cities are the heartbeat of our communities. If you're bringing people to a community, you're taking them to the downtown area so people can get a finger on the pulse of what that community values and feels is important. So Future Neenah, one of our other roles is we're also, we put the fun in Neenah, I like to say. So one of those things is we do a lot of the community events for the city of Neenah. So we're the Christmas event people, we are the farmers market people, we're the concert in the park people. We do all of those types of activities for the community. And those are so important because that is driving that economic development as well. So when people are coming to your community to attend an event like that, they're putting heads in beds, they're spending money at gas stations, they're going out to eat at restaurants. So last year, Future Neenah hosted over 65 days of community events. And those events had an estimated economic impact to the community of $3.3 million. And we had about 47,000 attendees at those events. So that is so important. It creates that quality of life. It creates us as a destination. So very important element of what happens there. So one of the things that we are looking at spending those funds on is we're doing an upgrade to our website. So we want to make that more user friendly so people can just have the access to Neenah information really quickly at their fingertips. We're also producing some literature to go along with that upgrade to the website. And then we'd also like to work with Neenah and the town of Neenah to create some cash mob opportunities for some of those smaller businesses that need to be lifted up. So those are some of the ways that we would be using that allocation. I guess at this point, I'd also mention that we'd be working with some of our friends in the Neenah area, like the Sunocos and the Plexuses of the world, who obviously are also trying to attract that talent and are looking for online type of opportunities that they can drive these possible employees to. So if they're not making that direct visit to the Neenah area, if they're remote and considering Neenah as an option, that there is that online option that if we want to check what we are about as a community. Excuse me. So with that said, I guess I would entertain any questions that anybody has about Future Neenah or our intense funding from the town. Yes.
Again, I'd like to thank you for coming. It is important that everybody gets to the table around here in the county. And the work that you guys have done is amazing. When my wife and I first got married, we lived above Joseph's Shoes.
Oh my goodness.
I highly doubt that apartment rents for $320 a month anymore. But the plaza and the ice rink and the things that have done since I lived there is just amazing. And I appreciate you coming here.
Thank you. I should also add that one of the things that we're really excited about right now is creating that 24/7 live environment in the Central City. So there's a number of living options that are also opening up the Solaris apartments and the 201 West apartment complexes. So that just adds to that component in the city as well. So two new exciting living developments there. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Just, yeah, I'm just, I mean, I'm very familiar with the program as well. It's a great program. And really strong support of Neenah, the city of Neenah. We certainly supported that as well, the village of Fox Wells. I'm just trying to figure out, they wouldn't, probably doesn't really have any things that will fit with that, so I mean, that's great, I'm glad they're giving you the money, but I'm just trying to figure out how it's gonna benefit them.
So they don't really have that economic development
No.
component arm within their community, so I think that they're looking to us to help fulfill that, some of that role. And one of the things that we're working on with them is we like to work towards a cash mob, so some of their businesses that are within, their purview. So a cash mob would be where we're offering incentives for people to patronize the businesses that are in their geographical
Yeah.
boundary.
Not more of many they have, but okay.
Mm.
All right, okay, that's good. I mean, I'm pleased with the program. I thought it's a good use of money, but just puzzle as to how it's gonna help the town of Nina. That's fine, thanks.
Anybody else? Any more?
Make a motion.
Awesome.
Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You going to keep on rolling the table?
What do you mean?
I will. You going to keep them on the table or just leave them on?
Yeah, the last one is the town Amro. They have not responded as far as, what they would like to do with their funds.
Oh, really?
They were the ones, tabled also from last time. So at this point, it's, I guess the money is still available if the town
How much was?
or this board. It's, let me get that number. That amount, is $2,120. It's really up to this board as to how you want to handle that. So $2,120.
You got an issue with their community center, I think. It would be nice to be able to at least kind of help them along.
Just be nice if they give us something. Respond to that.
I'd like to make the motion to leave it at least one more month and see what the town does with it.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I do actually, I have a question if that's allowed, since it's already been posed. The question is, the next month that they still haven't responded, do we have the authority to grant that to, say, Go EDC to work on their behalf, or does it just go back to the IDB?
Entirely up to discretion of the board here.
Okay.
As to what you'd like.
Motion, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Yep.
All right, I just want to make sure, so we can discuss that next meeting if they're not here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that all for that? I don't know.
Yes, at this time, yes.
Okay.
We're
all
tabled items.
Yep, we got through all the tabled items, yes.
Okay, so the next item would be the report and discussion of Winnebago County proposed repurposed IDB revolving loan fund program with greater Ascot.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just want to thank Director Bougie here. When I first came to the office, we talked about this fund that it hadn't been used since 2015. And I gave him a goal to figure out a way to make this active, to figure it out. So these monies can get out to our community, and how do we figure out a way to lessen the burden on the municipalities, not make them 100% guarantee, and to actually make this go. So he has been reaching out, and I just wanted to give him credit for at least getting us this far and bringing it to the table. I'm not going to say how this discussion will go, but I do appreciate him acting on one of his goals, and I'm very pleased with the work. So I just want to give him some thanks on that.
Thank you, John.
As uncomfortable as it may make you feel, Jerry.
Do my job. But thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
All right, so, if you can remember, I know Kathy and Art speaking with me. If you guys please, so please chime in, but back in September, we presented a workshop to this group based on kind of how we as an organization has managed and utilized revolving loan funds. and how we've been able to be extremely active with those. And even since September, I mean, already in 2023, we reviewed over $250,000 of applications. So obviously we have a program that is currently working. So we appreciate the opportunity to show you all what we've been doing and what we've been going forward. So today we wanted to propose a transition, and I think the biggest purpose of today is to get, I think we had heard a great nodding from the board last time, but to get some additional direction and feedback from both Jerry and us as well. So that way we can put together, if this is the direction you all want to go, we can put together a manual that we can actually utilize and adopt in. So I don't want to go through everything we talked about last time, but I want to hit a few highlights again, and then open this up for discussion. So like we discussed last time, Greater Oshkosh EDC is currently administrating 3 different loan programs on behalf of, 2 on behalf of the city of Oshkosh, and then 1 on behalf of this board for the Rural Revolving Loan Fund. We know we have the infrastructure in place and can easily roll this in a cost-effective way to managing these programs. Similarly, we'd like to keep the structure close to what we're currently doing in our other programs, because as I mentioned, not only is it proven as something that is in demand, but it would also allow us to then be easy to not have competitive products throughout the region. Businesses outside of Oshkosh have wanted what we provided. We've had multiple requests coming in from areas like Neenah and Menasha especially, which do not currently have access to funds like this. And I don't, again, talking about competitive programs, I don't want to tell somebody from Neenah or Menasha that I can offer something that in Oshkosh and maybe lure them away from the placement there. That is not what we're looking to do. We want to have growth throughout the county. So that there's a demand for a program like this. I can tell you that we work really closely with WEDC, which is the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. What we've heard from them on the Access Capital programs there is that our programs that we're running, they rival what we see in Milwaukee and Madison. So they really do, they kind of look towards ours as a premier smaller urban setting for rural revolving loan funds. I also like the fact that the process that we utilize has direct relationships with the bank. We work really closely with our funding partners, which means that we're not competition to the banks, right? We are always complementing them as gap financing, which makes them happy because they're necessary. But it also means that they're creating a funnel and utilizing us to help get programs done. So there's lots of different ways that people can access this program, and our commercial partners being one of them. And then lastly, of course, our process does include technical assistance, which means we're working very closely with the businesses, giving them access to a lot of other resources, Small Business Development Center, other mentors, pieces like that, to make sure that they have the best business plan and the best growth projections by what we're doing. So I guess a couple of asks that we have today. Specifically, obviously, you have a little bit of proposal to go through, and I'd love to answer any questions as to kind of how that differs from what we had before to what we're doing now. But I think a couple of the key things that we're looking for is obviously that municipality piece is a big challenge for a lot of to be able to make these funds go out universally. Our smaller municipalities can't back these loans, so removing that aspect. We'd also like to remove the Wisconsin statute that limits the uses, because we want to be able to reach out to a wider variety of businesses and not be limited by what's outlined there. And some of that, like just to give you an example, is a lot of that is very facilities based. And facilities are easier to fund with programs through the SBA, like the 504 loan, right? Facility. But when you start talking about inventory or some of those startup costs, those ones are harder, and that's usually where the gap financing is needed. And then we'd also like to look at a fee structure that allows us to, we've kind of started dabbling in this. We don't have it officially yet. I want to be able to discuss, but just to kind of put it in front of you, a fee structure that allows us to have a flat rate to cover some known expenses that we'll have from year to year, things like our annual audit that will be done to make sure that the program is being done, some accounting fees. And then the rest of the fee structure, we look at doing something that allows us to take loan origination fees and a portion of the actual interest that comes in. So that way our payment is based on that activity. So the more we do, the more we get paid, right? and then obviously there's still some funding that's coming back to help grow the program as well. So that's kind of what we're looking for today.
You have physical oversight on things like inventory and things that, that are not measurable as you would in a state measured way. In other words, when they require a loan from the state,
the state goes in and takes a look at the inventory and whatever,
Mhm.
you have people that would be able to do that.
Not necessarily, well, that's why we always look at us as gap financing, not primary. So what we're doing is more the technical assistance, not the, not the actual physical going in. So what we would do is typically our loans have we would do either a collateral, a general business security agreement. And then we work with those businesses directly through financial reporting and one-on-one consultation to make sure that they're following with it. Does that answer your question?
Much.
Okay. Gotcha.
And the question that I have is, the ability of this, or the creation of this would grant you the ability to now work with businesses in Neenah Menasha and work with the other economic drivers in the county?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is what, again, the way that we're positioned and where we're situated is we already have relationships with a lot of the existing entities. Eric included to say, there's a project that's coming forward. We're doing that already in Oshkosh. If the chamber has a project that they need assistance with, we'll step in to assist them. We're especially doing that with the rural revolving loan fund. But I think our biggest limitation is what we can do in Neenah Menasha because they are not eligible for USDA funds. And then the USDA funds are capped at $40,000. So we have a program right now that actually went through the USDA process. And the way that, it works if you're doing a commercial building is that the state gets to tell you what your commercial building is valued at. And with construction costs at the place that they are versus what the state is assessing it, their bank financing will not cover the cost. And so that's a hurdle for them to continue forward on that project. And it's not so much the bank financing, but that small business loan. They will not cover more than what the appraisal is. So that project can't go forward without someone stepping in to assist to maybe fill that gap. And we see that happen in a lot of situations where a business wants to expand and those construction costs just outweigh what the appraisal cost will come in. So.
John, you guys already helped us on the USDA program with a match, but that's capped at 40. And I'm sure everyone around the table knows, even with gap financing, that's pretty limited.
Yeah. Right.
Whereas if
And specifically small businesses, there's also, the USDA says no more than $1 million in annual revenue.
And I believe this one has to do with pizza, and that's a special place in my heart. Is that the one? Right. So
Yep. So so those are the types of opportunities that we're getting. We've had businesses from downtown Menasha who want to get launched and create something really neat, that would complement what they have. But we don't have, we just don't need to offer them.
Right.
So.
I'd like to add to just, from January to this point, we have reviewed and approved about 300,000 in just all of our access capital programs, which then equates to just about over a $3 million new net investment. So our funds are our programs are very active.
she's being actually polite, the step CAD, we would be on our 4th iteration of that. And to Tricia's point, a community our size, that's gone back to the well now 4 times because we've had success. We're kind of pushing their threshold as to, well, how many times do we want to? But then again, if we're using it and it's being managed and actually working out there, why not give us a 4th matching capability?
Yeah. And the nice thing is, as we get these rounds in, the funds are continuing to revolve, and that's what keeps these programs going. So it's building, and it's nice because it's able to continue with the revolving aspect of it.
I do want to just point out that Mary Ann and I have been looking into some of the questions, a couple of questions that had come up as part of this proposal that GoEDC has presented us with. And there's really 2 kind of key questions we were trying to answer. The first one is, does, any loan that's issued, does it require county board approval? And the second question is, can you loan directly to businesses? Because currently the way that our loan fund is set up is, you loan it to the municipality, and the municipality works with the business, and the municipality is secures it with their taxing authority. So we're moving away from that whole thing. And in our discussion, Mary Ann, we've determined that, first of all, there is no requirement these loans go to county board for approval. And secondly, yes, the board can loan dollars directly to businesses. You know, we don't need to, you know, loan it to a municipality. And then they in turn loan it to a business. So we've, you know, I don't know if you have any further mention or any.
I would just say by making that amendment, as is referenced in Jerry's agenda item report, it will be able to basically make sure these funds are being tapped into, because right now, since 2015, as you can see, they have not been accessed. So they're just sitting there. And as Jerry indicated, the reason was because the municipalities were concerned that it negatively was impacting their debt service and therefore their borrowing capability. So they did not want to basically access this. So they were hoping by changing the formula, these dollars will be accessed and help the community.
So so what you're saying, I guess, hearing this correctly, just go back and use an Oshkosh Corp for an example. This board could, you know, allocate a loan or something to Oshkosh Corp to say, stay in Oshkosh to build those postal vehicles.
That's correct.
Mhm.
That's
And
correct.
it wasn't written like that prior to this.
Right,
Right.
we needed to actually, the way it used to work is we'd have to make a loan to the city of Oshkosh itself, and the city would be the one that's actually on the hook for the loan.
Mhm.
Now we, you know, with this proposal, we could work directly with the business.
What type of businesses can you define? Could they be nonprofit businesses?
There is a whole laundry list of in our nonprofits. I'm not sure about nonprofits. I think we'd have to look into that, you know, whether nonprofits themselves are would be
Defined as a
eligible. It's a little unclear. I'm sorry.
As defined as a business?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, under the provisions of the economic development law, it means any site, structure, facility, or undertaking comprising or being connected with or being part of an industrial, manufacturing, commercial, retail, agribusiness, or service-related enterprise established or to be established by
Or service related.
yeah, so whether a nonprofit, that's a question we might have to look into more.
That's also something where if the board does not feel that that's the right use of funds, we can build that into the manual.
Right.
And historically, we have not worked with nonprofits. We made an exception with some COVID programs because we felt it was, the example we used for COVID was, Habitat for Humanity needed a repair on their truck and it was very hard to raise money. So we did extend a COVID loan to them, but typically nonprofits, it's like the Boys and Girls Club right now. They have other avenues by which to receive assistance. So typically that's where we stay with the for-profit. But again, if that is something the board feels strongly about one way or another, it can always be built into the manual specifically.
Are you a nonprofit?
We are a nonprofit. So I'm saying we don't typically help nonprofits as a nonprofit, so.
Sure.
So
It would be nice.
the reason we couldn't loan directly to businesses prior to sometime in the future or in the past is because it's in our bylaws, or what law is requiring that? What do we have to change to make this happen?
Yeah, the whole loan policy, we're going to, we're working with GoEDC to essentially take the existing loan policies and go through them, word by word.
So these policies are just under the jurisdiction of this board.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yes,
And they were enacted, at least the ones we're looking at, in May 2015.
yeah,
And there
Right.
was a question about, do the limitations under a portion of the statute apply here? And that is based on the policy that was issued in 2015, which said the loan is limited to a governmental unit with tax levying authority that is undertaking an industrial development related project. And then the policy that was passed by this board in 2015 says an industrial development is defined as referenced in Wisconsin statute 66.1103. So that is a provision that obviously will want to be reviewed. So that's the.
So we actually, sorry, we do have a draft that we didn't want to present for you today, but based on your feedback today, would basically edit this draft, work with staff to review it before presenting
Yeah.
it to you in May.
Yeah, that was sort of our goal was, our next meeting, we would have something that we could distribute to the board. Have you look it over. And potentially it would be the board's new, loan policies. And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mary Ann or Jared, did you follow another county's guidelines on this? Or are you going to on this policy change?
the original loan policies were sort of a kind of a cobbled together from different loan programs elsewhere, some ideas that the county had itself. And so on, and the loan policies, they weren't first written in May of 2015. They were simply amended in May of 2015. They actually go way back to the early 80s, so there is amendments over time. And now working with Go EDC, it's some of their experience, some of their knowledge on working with loan programs, what our needs are here. So it's really going to be kind of a mixture of things, I think. So it's, is it going to be modeled after any specific loan program? Not necessarily. Other than it's probably going to be modeled after our existing loan policies, but because we're taking that and we're kind of amending that and going through word by word, and so it'll be a combination or mixture of things.
And just maybe a follow-up if
Mhm.
I may, I guess, why were the bylaws or why did that policy change happen in 2015 was?
There were some changes that were made and specifically one of the big things that were changed in it was the interest rate. Okay, for instance. It was originally set up where the interest rate was half the prime rate. Okay, so we made a loan to a municipality. It was based on half the prime rate. So wherever the prime rate was, we would loan the dollars out at half that. Made it, hopefully attractive, and it worked for a period of time. So one of the things that changed in 2015 was the way we charged interest. We changed it at that time to say it's based on the annual fixed rate equal to 1% above the 5-year US Treasury rate. Okay, so now it's based on whatever the Treasury rate is on the 5-year US Treasury bond. It's that percent plus 1% on top of that. So that was the desire by the board back in 2015 to do that. That was just one of the things, and there were different things as far as how the board looked at loans and how the process worked. But essentially, a lot of stuff in here did not change. It was just a few things that did change, and interest rate being one of them. So, but there were things here and there, some wording changes, but that was the main thing in 2015. But again, the loan policies actually are very similar to the way they were written up way back in the eighties. So.
Somebody had a problem with giving it directly to businesses, right? And they changed that and now we're gonna bring that back.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my
that-
understanding.
That provision actually was original to the program.
From the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was original to the program.
And that was high in the time of economic development, where public-private partnerships were really key.
Yeah.
So it was very reflective of economic development.
Yeah, and a lot of that also had to do with the board didn't want to get involved in all the minutia of doing the underwriting and due
Sure.
diligence that's required as part of a loan. It was felt that, yeah, we could leave that to the municipality to handle. The municipality would come to us then after they sort of got a structure in mind with a certain business and say, hey, we got this business, they're looking to borrow $300,000. They need $300,000. The IDB can very quickly, because the municipality is prepared to, at that point, already secure that loan with its taxing authority. They've gone through the process of doing that at the local level, and then when they came here, 90% of that was already done. And so all they needed was the board itself here to actually grant the loan, and they were on their way. So it could actually happen very quickly. Once it made it here, here at the county, so.
John, you said something?
Yeah, the history of this has been really amazing. At one point in time, it worked so well that all the money was out. And
Right.
Solid Waste Board actually committed an additional $2 million, was it?
Actually, $4
$4
million.
million.
$2 million initially, and
And
then,
then another 2 million
Right.
to keep the money going out because it was working so well to grow it. Right, that's the history where it came
Right.
from back in the eighties. And then, since 2015, it's been laying dormant. So I think it's just changing a little bit with the time, and especially even the interest rate when we get to there.
Money there.
Right.
That's just a problem.
And going forward, prime is gonna be an issue. When interest rates keep going up, if we don't figure out something out, we have a real chance of being dormant or even going backwards in this county, which I don't want to happen. And the thing to remember for businesses and for industry and for commercial and retail, very often, do we get anywhere near prime? Matter of fact, we don't. We get higher interest rates all the time. So if we can have that opportunity, even to be a prime or a little bit above prime, that's going to be attractive to businesses, and it's going to keep our economy strong in this county. And I think the timing on this is right for what's coming up. So the history is rich. The solid waste really threw me I don't know what the argument was. More businesses, more garbage, more tipping fees?
I went to those meetings.
Were they? Okay, so, right, more people, more garbage, more tipping fees. So George, we'll have to connect over a coffee to find out a little bit more of that.
Yeah, Jerry's right. I mean, interesting history, and there's no point in going into extreme detail. But, number one, of course, the county did, at that point in time, did not, and I don't necessarily agree with all this, but at that time, the majority did not want to loan out, take any risk. So the local communities took all the risk.
right,
And that was, I mean, it worked well for a while because there's no money for anybody. So when any money we could get to give to a business is great. They were
Yeah.
excited about it. Then, of course, the interest rates started dropping. There was no value to them. That's what that's what really killed the programs. You could get it anywhere
Yeah.
for much
Right.
less money. So
yeah, that was part of
it
it.
was almost zero for a while.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then, of course, we also, any block grant funds, so there was change in state law, so we cannot keep those money for revolving loan programs. And never
Right.
communities had those, we had to give them back. So there was no money available for a revolving loan unless you set it up yourself. That's pretty hard for community to do.
Yeah, yeah.
We always set up some, but
Mhm.
George, wasn't there a banking rule that if you had a subcontract with, say, you were writing some kind of a small loan to somebody who was trying to buy your house, so there's a sub, you couldn't you couldn't take any more than, I think it was 1% of the earnings off of that based on a monthly, so the payments never were greater than the amount of interest that you were currently paying on your house, say. And so you know, to rent a house at that. There was a provision in the banking rules somewhere that you could not rent out any higher, at any higher rate than what you were paying on that you were, you know, on your current mortgage. So it was chopped down. You could only do a 1 or 2% of that mortgage. I don't know that, those were rules in the early '80s as far as rentals.
I guess in some, I think this is a great change. We can all work together. We have monies available, all of the local communities do, but we really don't have this kind of fund available. We can lend that with others. We get TID money, other things. We can do some facade improvements that you can do through block grant, but we don't have access to that.
Yeah. We call that stacking capital, right?
Even
When we can work with-
Oshkosh are the two developments, they can do that.
Yeah, but when we can go in and say, you know, like even if you guys have big grants or things like that, like you stack that capital and all of a
Right.
sudden you have a business startup that, you know, for business expansion, that's a lot more attractive in our community than it might be in another community.
If you confirm the statutes allow this to happen, because I know Tricia's board, they're gonna want absolutely in writing that this is legal.
Oh,
No one, I'm not questioning, I'm not.
I think the whole board will want that.
But there's not some statute that we didn't know about, and then we find out we're.
Yep.
We've got a problem. I think, George, also, I mean, as you all know, just appreciating the size of what businesses need to borrow now and knowing what townships have to work with. It's totally understandable that for 5, 6, 8 years, no one's had the courage to do this. And that's why the funds have remained dormant. Yeah,
There really wasn't much you need.
well,
Always give the money.
Yeah.
right. But I think you're seeing businesses expand out in the rural
That
now.
was correct.
Couldn't do or.
So are
First
there
decision.
questions kind of, you know, related to the proposal, kind of what we're seeing? So not, we didn't go all the way as putting the manual in front of you today, but kind of this proposal, we drew this up a while ago, actually. That gives you a little bit of an outline of how we would run the program. I mean, any questions on that? I think I can go through if you guys want me to have any explanation on them, but.
The only question I have is, I mean, of course, with some of the other programs, we went through the one program where they were really give out money to communities working through, there's some years, I don't know, the money for the, what do they call it? Program,
You're talking COVID?
No, yeah, that equal, yeah, the whole thing, we give out money to communities, and how would that work for when a business asks for assistance? Will you contacted us as well, and will work through us, or?
Yeah, I mean, if we're working in a certain area, then we would definitely be working with that, you know, for the capital stacking you're talking about. We would
Right.
definitely be working with the individual municipality to try to make
If
sure.
a
we
business is interested in fund, then we'll certainly refer them to you.
Yep.
And we'll work hand in hand.
Right. And that's the great thing about this program is it is kind of a two-way funnel, right? If
Right.
businesses come to us first, then we can go to the municipality or the entity in that area and combine, you know, that way. And then it also goes the other way where if you have something that gets stuck and we're like, well, financing is the challenge. And that's the same way it goes with the banks as well. We have the banks who come to us and say, we've got this
Right.
project but they need this much gap financing. Or we have a project that, you know, is looking for that commercial partner and we'll refer them back to the commercial lenders in the area. Mhm.
George, the other change with the COVID loan is you did send us the dollars and we distributed. When the program was shut, we sent you half back.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking of a different program.
Yeah.
Right, we're not taking ownership
No,
of any
no,
funds
that's
here.
right. Those are the state program.
So Tricia, the role of the board here would be. So the process of the work where a business has an interest in a loan.
Mhm.
You're contacted. And at that point, you notify, or you go through a process of underwriting and all the background
Mhm.
And at what point does this board get involved in, at the end of the process or toward the end of the process, or how would you
So
envision?
I can tell you how it works in our other programs, and then we can
Okay.
discuss how you'd like to be involved. So in, like, for example, the city of Oshkosh programs, they are the governing authority who sets the guidelines within the manual, and we operate within the manual. So pretty much and then we report out to them, and then obviously whenever we want to make manual changes, that goes through that board. So they do not have involvement in the individual distribution or approval of the loans. That way we can move quickly, we can move within, does not have to go. So you're basically empowering us to have these activities on behalf of you,
Okay,
based on the guidelines that we will approve in the manual.
okay,
If it was, I mean, with the USDA program, we do have to have the USDA approve it. It's something that they have to give a check mark on, because of their guidelines to make sure that they are going through it. But, again, that's with them, they can do that within a few days. So, if it's something that the board wanted to have oversight in the individual loan process, we can discuss that. But, I would hope that, kind of we're putting our experts around the table for a reason, right? They do this
That'd be a
a
lot.
lot. It would be a lot of meetings. So that's kind of the idea, is that you can have oversight on this program without having to meet without having to meet regularly. And then
Very
what we can do is provide regular reports as well as an annual report where we stand up here. I mean, we always tell our loan recipients, these are public funds, right? So there is a certain layer that is public information. Of course, there's a lot that we keep private, which is the key part of this, is that they wouldn't want to share their full financial documents with this board, but they'll share them with us for the loan approval process. And then we can give you the information needed on the status of the loans.
That was awkward.
And I would say that the team that you used through COVID proved their worth.
Yes, they
I
prove their
mean,
work a lot. Yes.
Yeah, we had some problem loans a while back, because Jerry remembers that became
Yeah.
awkward.
Yeah.
yep,
We had a closed session, yes.
Yes, I mean, that is difficult when you start talking about, deciding on defaults and things like that. So everything that we can do, because of the structure of our organization, we can act as, on behalf of this board without having to have public comment and public review of what we're doing.
right.
Mhm.
Sounds good to me.
Well, Jerry and Tricia and Corey, do you see Jerry, you guys gonna put together a manual
Yes,
and procedures and policy
yes,
recommendations
Mhm.
for the board to review?
yeah, and we'll bring that to the board at your next
Mhm.
meeting, potentially in May. I don't know how close we are here,
I think we're pretty close, so.
or, but soon.
Yes.
You mentioned defaults and
Mhm.
listing and the backgrounds of the different businesses and whatever you're going through to sort out the problems that they might be having. But those problems are listed in your overall book on each business. Are we able to see those problems in gross and other, in an overlay of, say, all the businesses that we have involved?
Like, you mean, if someone like is in default or is some, additional detail?
Over time, you might have.
Mhm. Yep.
15 of them somewhere over a long period of time, but we'd
Right.
like to be able to see that, how they're strung out or
Mhm.
what particular areas. or
Yeah,
what
so,
kind of-
so typically what we do in, again, I think one of the biggest thing is the financial information is typically pretty private, so we do review financials as part of our. Even we review them during the loan application process, but then also as we go through to ensure that the stability of that business. So those are the types of things that we might keep private to us. But, a report out on how that business is standing, or if we do have a business that ends up in a default situation, then that would be a greater, detailed report out.
Right,
Mhm,
and we would see that here.
mhm.
I was just wondering, you mentioned that you could possibly put in the nonprofits in there and just at least see what that would look like. Could you add that into? And give it to Jerry or whatever, so we read it and,
Mhm.
just see what that would entail anyways.
Sure,
At
absolutely.
nonprofits.
Sure.
I mean, it's really the difference of saying for nonprofit or for profit.
Right.
But, we can talk a little bit about what that might look like from a standpoint of supporting.
Right.
It's a lot of entities and, yeah, so I mean, but absolutely, we can take that. I think the other thing that, we look at, or kind of what we're proposing is the committee acts, I mean, we have several bankers on the committee and we act somewhat like a bank and we do react according to the market. So rather than having a flat set rate, it is related to what the market is. And I think that's important because then the risk of the market is the risk of the business, right?
Mhm.
So while we typically fall under what you might see as a traditional commercial loan, we are still flexing with the market and that risk. So that just supports, again, still that lower interest rate, which makes it attractive as gap financing, especially since we're going to usually have a shorter amortization schedule than another program would. But that flexibility allows us to make sure that risk matches what's going on currently with the loan that's coming out. And the same way with what we do typically with amortization schedules, like I just mentioned, is when they review everything, our board will decide based on the business what's best. Do they need a period of, interest only because they have, a lot of, they need some time before they can actually get everything into place. So interest only, is a balloon payment at the end. So we are catering those loan structures just like a bank would to help match what would be best for that business and the most for their success.
Tom, do you have an idea of what you mean by nonprofit? And I only ask it from the standpoint of,
People that want money for free.
well, I mean,
Well,
is the thought that we could look at
I'll just
helping
name one, the
nonprofits,
finance center, I'll just name that.
okay, or at least with a number of years of service versus something that's
Great, that's
You know,
something like, if you guys come up with.
18 months old and we don't know how solid their funding base is,
Right.
it may be easier for us to try and define and help you guys so that we don't end up with, we just started a group and we help this
Right.
little entity and one major donor is all their funding right now and they look profitable, but that may be harder for us to define if we don't have some hard and fast.
We can work on a proposal to define, but I think the other thing that we usually take into consideration and probably why nonprofits are typically not considered into something like this is, there is usually a job retention, attraction or retention part of a program like this. There's also usually a tax-based growth, right? That's the benefit for the county for running something like that. So I think that's just something to weigh if we consider nonprofits is a lot of times their property capital investment doesn't actually drive an increase in the tax base. So that's one of the things, that's what we've seen experience from these programs in the past.
That brings up a question in my head. What kind of risk management for something like that would they have in value to your business to know how they're balancing all of, the capital that they've got out there?
With their risk management.
Their
or-
risk management,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we look extensively, we have a long line of documents that's required to be submitted that we will look forward. I mean, not every business is going to have risk management on their end, and we go, especially some of the smaller ones, so we'll utilize supporting programs like the Small Business Development Center to help, to evaluate their side, to make sure that they are putting forward a capital stack or an access capital program that makes sense.
I mean, I would say, Jamie, no matter what we come to agreement here, we're still limited by state statute. We can only spend on what the state statute says we can spend it on. It's even, it looks clear that this
Yeah.
can't be used for housing.
Right.
What personally, I would argue has a lot to do with economic development. But the state statute doesn't say that, so no matter what entity applies for these, we're gonna be limited to the purposes that the state statute says. Unlike cities, we don't really have home rule and things like that, which could be nice and could be problematic at the same time. But I'm excited for next steps.
I wanted to go back to the whole conversation about risk is the RLF committee that we have in place represents a number of different professional service areas, accountants, attorneys, commercial lenders, insurance. And their purpose on that committee is not only to evaluate the risk, evaluate the business, but they also provide those services after the fact. So if we do have a business maybe that, maybe needs a little bit of extra attention, a little extra TLC, that group will provide and extend that. We'll have some of these applicants come back in and work with the committee or take suggestions from the committee to kind of get going, you know, on the right track. We don't have very many of those, let me be clear. But in the event that there's some additional assistance needed for these businesses, we have a wonderful group in place that provides that service to them.
Yeah, we've had those discussions before about risk. I mean, you have to be a little careful not to be totally risk averse, because the whole idea of economic development is to take some risk and hopefully see new developments. So
Well, with that committee's had the courage to turn away a couple applicants and say, you're not ready.
Right.
And that's probably the hardest decision, but
It
the right
is.
one, is send them back to the help that these guys. Done them on.
The other program allowed the local communities to take the risk.
We even have,
That it was, yeah.
we even had one that, you know, like Eric was talking about, getting the right business attraction. We had one that was not the right business model fit for our area. It was something that probably fit better in Silicon Valley, and,
Right.
you know, we just didn't feel like that was the right risk and the right attraction into our area. We did not fund it.
It's okay. We're singing here is known as a restaurant owner from the financial industry. I've heard no a lot. Yeah,
That's a very high risk.
Yeah.
right.
One bad meal and say, yeah,
Yep.
not good.
Well, there's, I think
It's
if
true.
there's no, Barry, do you feel like you have enough direction from the committee as well?
Yeah.
For us to
Yeah.
move forward then?
Mhm, yeah.
Tough business.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right. Sounds like we'll have a next meeting coming up soon then. huh?
Sounds like it. Next meeting and adjournment, next meeting will be as soon as Jerry gets something put together, right?
Yeah, we'll send out a notice to the committee and with some optional dates and times, and we'll get another meeting going, hopefully at some point in May here.
You wanna go?
Does this have to be approved by your board first, or what's the flow go here?
One of the things, so we would like our committee to weigh in on whatever we prepare, because they're the ones who will actually be, you know, we are the staff administrative, but they're the
Right.
ones who actually have to carry out all the duties. So typically, we try to get, you know, if we could come together, at least have them weigh on the manual before it comes to you, so that way they're in agreement. And then it would have to be approved by, it should go through our board as well. Just the agreement, if we, especially with the contract agreement. So I would say we have a board meeting in May that we can try to see if we can make some things happen. And then maybe shoot for later in May.
Or June, we can.
Or June is
we
fine
have
too.
to.
Yep. Even if we have this approved in May or June, it will probably take us a little bit to get the program established and marketed and everything like that. So we might look to launch it, you know, after a few months. So it's not like you're gonna approve this and the next day we're gonna do loans, because we want to make sure everything in place properly.
I just know that if I had something approved before my board got a chance to look at it, it would not end up well for me.
Right.
Good try.
As it works.
Right.
Always.
That's some experience.
Just little, just little. It doesn't end well.
All right, so sometime in May or June, and
Yep.
I'll get the motion
I'll
to adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second, right?
Motion made in second, all in favor.
Right.
Aye.
Great meeting.